Who's your commander?
Good luck.
Equip.
Move to combat.
Resolves.
Now, before you attack,
Does
me,
anyone have an answer?
Well played.
Good game.
Hello everyone, my name is DJ and you're watching the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. Modern Horizons 2 has been out for a little bit and it's an amazing set. There are so many great commander cards in there that you don't really need me to tell you about. There are some great ones that I know you're putting into your commander decks, but there are a few that are unexpected. There are a few that are underrated and already underplayed. I want to talk to you about the hidden gems that you might not have thought of in Modern Horizons 2. Let's start off with a few honorable mentions. The first one is one that you might be interested in playing if you like merfolk. It's Velum of Sea and Sky. You know, Velum got pigeonholed right off the bat. If you're running merfolk in a merfolk deck, merfolk matters. But honestly, you got to break away from that because Velum is surprisingly good. It's that card draw. You place Velum on 3 and then you can just start attacking with impunity for card draw. You can almost always swing Velum somewhere so that you can draw that card. And I've seen Velum draw 3, 4, 5 cards super easily and getting in some chip damage here and there. So even if you're not running merfolk, you want to take a look at Velum to facilitate your creature-based card draw. Next up, we have a card that's not really very powerful, but I've seen do an amazing synergy that you need to know about. It's Scour the Desert. Scour the Desert is 3 white for a sorcery, and it says exile target creature from your graveyard. Create X 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying, where X is the exiled creature's toughness. So you pay this for 5 and you're like, what am I going to get? 5, 6, 7 different little flying birds for 2 cards and all these hoops? No way. But let me tell you that there are some big creatures you can dump into your graveyard. There's one that I'm particularly fond of. It's Soul of Eternity. This 7 mana star, and that's the key, star, because stars represent their power and toughness no matter where they are, in the library, in the graveyard, whatever. And its power and toughness is equal to your life total. So you can regularly exile this out of your graveyard and then get 40 1/1 flying birds. It's like a build your own storm herd. I saw this pulled off the other day and it was so hilarious. I needed to share it with you. Hopefully you can build your own storm herd and take over people. Oh, it's so good. All right, next up we have Obsidian Charma. 3 red for a 4/4 dragon. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each land your opponents control that could produce a colorless mana. It's got flying, and when it enters the battlefield, it destroys target non-basic land an opponent controls. So I always thought that this was fine. You know, being able to hate out non-basic lands is really good. Your opponents are going to have Gaia's Cradles and all sorts of dangerous stuff. Take out that Cabal Coffers, you know, all over the place. But I really underestimated how quickly you can get Obsidian Charma down. How many of my opponents are playing greedy mana bases with colorless utility lands? And looking around, I was regularly able to play Obsidian Charma for not just 1 less, but 2 or even 3 less. And so I found this to be incredibly efficient, and the destruction has been really useful. And so if you're looking to curve out in red, if you're looking to disrupt your opponents, maybe play a little bit of a faster strategy where 4 damage matters, and when putting your opponent off of their Ancient Tomb matters, Obsidian Charma is phenomenal. Next up is Underworld Hermit. 4 black for a 3/3 human peasant, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a number of 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens equal to your devotion to black. I know that people obsess over Grey Merchant of Asphodel, and that is the better card, but I found that Underworld Hermit does a lot of work. Just coming in with a couple tokens is fine, but honestly, I've run into tons of different board states where Underworld Hermit creates 7 or 8 or just an overwhelming number of squirrels. It's actually been pretty impressive. But you know, the real token producer that I've been excited about is Nested Shambler. A 1 black mana for a 1/1 zombie, but when it dies, you create X tapped 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens where X is Nested Shambler's power. I found a ton of different ways to pump up Nested Shambler's power, attack in with it, sacrifice it, and then get so many more creatures than I expected. aristocrat strategies, sacrifice strategies, need bodies, and Nested Shambler has been a really great addition to these types of decks, and it is definitely a sleeper. And plus, look at this art. It's so insane. Next up was a card that I hinted had a high power level on our Command Zone review, and I just wanted to share my experiences with it. It's Flame Blitz. It's a 1 mana red enchantment that says at the beginning of your end step, Flame Blitz deals 5 damage to each planeswalker. Amazing. It also has cycling too, so this thing is never a dead card. Flame Blitz performed for me when I was playing Magic over the weekend. I was playing my Enchantment Matters deck and I had slotted Flame Blitz in, and actually I was shut down a little bit. There was an opposing Narset keeping me from drawing too many cards, and so normally I might have cycled this or played it just to trigger my enchantment, but I played it and it killed that Narset. That's what I really needed to die, but incidentally, I killed 2 other planeswalkers, an Elspeth and a Garruk with Flame Blitz on the battlefield. It ended up being phenomenal. A 3-for-1 that got me what I needed and interrupted my opponent's abilities to play new planeswalkers. It was so good. So even though I was playing it in an Enchantress deck where there was a lot more upside to it, I honestly think that this can slot in any deck with red if you know you're facing down powerful planeswalkers. Next, I want to talk about an innocuous spell that is incredibly flexible. It's Break Ties. 2 and a white, coming in a little bit expensive, but so flexible. This instant can do anything. Destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, exile target card from a graveyard, or pay 1 white to reinforce 1. And that means discard this card to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Break Ties was played against me. I was doing shenanigans in my graveyard and suddenly someone swooped in and took out the card that I needed. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, wait, why do you have that? It's like a bad removal spell. And they're like, look, what else do I have in white that's instant, that does all of these different things? And their deck cared a little bit about +1/+1 counters too. And so I had to admit that the results paid off. They definitely interrupted me, and they had the flexibility to do it with this instant speed card. And so it might not have impressed me to begin with, but Break Ties blew me out. Next, we have the runner-up, Abundant Harvest. 1 green for a sorcery, choose land or non-land. You reveal cards from the top of your library until you get what you chose, and you get that card, the rest go on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this seems pretty simple. It's just a cantrip, it replaces itself, but honestly, I've been so impressed by cantrips, and I am pushing the necessity of them in many decks because they help smooth out your draws. A lot of Commander is making sure that you have the right cards at the right time, specifically lands. You always need to hit your land drops because we've impressed upon you how important ramp is. Well, if you miss your land drop, that's like the opposite of ramp. So if ramp is so important, we're all obsessed with it, hitting your land drops has to be just as important as that. And so Abundant Harvest helps you hit your land drops, but then in late game helps you breeze past those excess lands to get into more action. You know, smoothing out your draws and smoothing out your deck also means that you can run fewer lands because you can hit your lands more reliably with your little cantrips like Abundant Harvest. So I have been enthralled with how spectacular these things perform and how well the play experience goes when I have a critical mass of cantrips. And so I'm including Abundant Harvest in almost every green deck that I have. I honestly think that it is that good. And the final card, the one that's most impressive, the one that you are sleeping on because you're not playing it in your decks, it's Bone Shards. A single black for a sorcery. As an additional cost to this spell, sacrifice a creature or discard a card. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. This seems kind of underpowered. You know, we've seen a card called Bone Splinters printed over and over and over again, and it feels like it's the same thing. 1 black mana sorcery, as an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature. But it is not the same thing at all. The ability to discard a card is huge, okay? Sometimes we want cards in our graveyard. We have madness decks out there. We have discard decks. We have reanimator decks, okay? a lot of times we have a critical mass of card advantage in black decks, and we want to leverage that. Bone Shards does that. It is 1 mana to kill something, and we can also go after those planeswalkers. I have found a necessity to be able to pressure early planeswalkers, especially those annoying 3 mana ones that seem to take over a game somehow. Ugh. Okay, but Bone Shards is honestly an amazing removal spell. So I think you should take a look at these cards. Actually, the majority of them are uncommons and commons. That's amazing. And that's how strong this set is that commons and uncommons can carry a lot of weight, especially when it comes to Commander. Now, these cards might not be as flashy and as exciting, but trust me, they are good. And if you don't think so, argue with me down in the comments below. I want to thank you for watching. I also want to thank Cool Stuff Inc. They sponsor the Jumbo Commander YouTube channel. If you go over there and use the coupon code JUMBO5, you can save 5% off your order and pick up some of these cheap cards. I also want to thank my patrons. They support me every single day. Thank you, patrons. And thank you for watching this video. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye, everyone.